This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube, joined once again by none other than the UFO Tar Heel Casey, which, by the way, we're adding this to his Twitter stream for the first time as another destination, and one day, hopefully, his TikTok. And of course, we're on all the Hannibal TV platforms. But another UFO report Friday night, 11 p.m. Eastern, as we usually do. The big news of the week, which I wasn't taking it that seriously until you confirmed it with me, I'm only going to link it up with UFOs because Tim Burchett tweeted to President Trump, hey, maybe this might be a good time to disclose because Elon Musk accusing President Trump of being involved with the Epstein files, which he had promised would be released. And now they haven't been released anywhere near to what we were expecting. And Musk is saying, and again, he could just be saying this to stir some issues because he has admitted being associated with Epstein, but most people have taken Trump at his word, saying that he found him an unsavory character and never saw him again. But you told me about it. What do you make of all this about the WWE Hall of Famer Donald Trump?
Yeah. It does tie into aliens because like even Ross Coulthard pointed out this week, so he made a post about responding. We'll talk here in a little bit about the Matthew Brown stuff too, but apparently either Matthew Brown, the guy who did the whistleblowing on Corbell and Knapp's Weaponized, I don't know if this is his confirmed X account or not, but he made a first post, or someone saying they're Matthew made their first post. And anyways, we'll get into that. But Ross responded to that and said that he said that he was told that Elon was briefed in on the NHI reality. So yeah, it is big news because if Elon keeps spilling, what if we get disclosure through Elon of Elon just saying, fine, I'm going to beat Donald Trump to it. He was pussyfooting around. He wasn't going to man up and talk about aliens and be real with the American people. So I'm going to do it, and I'm going to beat him to it. Because again, Ross does claim to have these government insider contacts, right? So, if he's saying that Elon was briefed in on the NHI reality and Elon keeps wanting to push the envelope, I mean, I don't know how much more you can push it past the Epstein stuff. I mean, as far as like me weighing in on the news of the Epstein stuff, it's all baked in with Trump. I mean, people already kind of know that about him, that they were buddies. And I mean, it's on film. That's not slanderous to say that him and Epstein were buddies. They're on film at parties and stuff.
Was he ever on the island? I've seen the party stuff, but that's the extent that I've seen.
See, and I think that's what people are wondering about, if that'll be part of this. When Elon is saying the truth will come out, if that'll be part of it. Because, it's... I was watching a very telling video is where I believe he's on Fox and Friends, and they asked him, they say, are you going to release the 9/11 files? And Trump emphatically says, yeah, like as quickly as he can responds. Are you going to release the JFK files? Yeah, as quickly as he can respond. And then she said, are you going to release the Epstein files? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, maybe not as much on that one, so he's a little apprehensive, and you're like, okay, what are you? And then he starts getting into like doing his rambling thing, and he starts saying, like, well, people buy, there's a lot of phony stuff in those documents and stuff like that. So he starts almost like trying to defend himself, like, and they're not even going there. They're just asking you if you're going to release. So I know like his handlers probably watched that interview and was probably like, just wrap it up. Just say something really quick, yes or no, and quit rambling because it's making you look complicit somehow. So who knows? But I really thought that was interesting with the with if Elon keeps spilling the beans, if something comes out from that, because again, if he knows something that he's not saying, and now he feels like he has liberty to start saying some stuff, I just wonder, wonder if he'll start spilling the beans on UFOs and aliens. So
Supermouth Dave Drayson, the Sheik's wrestling manager, says between the two, how many wives and kids do they have? No, and I won't read the other part out loud.
Who between the two? Who between
Not
Trump and
us,
Epstein?
Elon.
Yeah,
I
not
think
us.
Elon and Trump, because doesn't Elon have 9 kids? I don't know how many Donald Trump has.
Oh, does he have that many? Elon? Holy hell! I knew
Yeah.
he had the little guy in office that was like running his mouth at Trump. I thought was pretty funny, but I have no clue. I mean, I didn't know Elon had that many kids, so I guess I'm not a big Elon expert. I don't know.
He's a big believer that the world is underpopulated and people should do their share to get more humanity on the earth. That's why he does it, according to
No, he's never
what I
been to
heard him say.
Charlotte, North Carolina. I mean, it's not underpopulated. Uh, so, but yeah, I mean, it's I think this is now something that people are watching to see, like, okay, if Elon's been briefed in on NHI and this is something that he knows about, what a perfect next, gut punch. Because right now he's just gut punching Trump because, like, Trump kind of threw him under the bus, said he let him go and told him to get out and fired him and everything else. And, and Elon didn't like that. And that's why Elon snapped. And so if he does know something about NHI, I think we're like paying a very close watch, like the next week or two. Will he say something? Will he drop some more information? Because he's already threatened to pull back some of his tech, I heard. I guess apparently, his company, SpaceX, whatever, they were building.
He has 14 kids, by the way. This interview I saw of him must have been 9.
Elon?
But he has 14 children.
With the same lady?
No.
Oh,
with different wives.
Okay,
which I'm sure there's no shortage of women lined up for one of the richest men on earth.
Then Dave may be right. There may be a lot of wives between those two. I have no clue. I knew that Trump had like 2, maybe 3. So, but yeah, I guess we'll have to see.
Musk also created his first computer, or sold his first computer program at the age of 10. So when we're talking about hybrids, I mean, that's a sign of someone with absolutely amazing powers, if nothing else. But to actually create and sell a computer program by the age of 10 is pretty amazing. Apparently Dennis Rodman's dad has 14 kids as well. So I think Musk is probably going to break that. I honestly don't think he's done yet.
Oh, no, I wouldn't think he's done. But yeah, I didn't know that about Dennis Rodman. Wow. I wonder how many women that is with. So, but anyway,
Dennis's dad, not Dennis himself. I don't know. I could.
Oh, Dennis Rodman's dad. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Trump, as far as I know, it's only 2. I'll double check that right now. I think it's just Trump Jr. and what is it? Melania? What is it? Ivanka? I forget Trump's daughter's
Ivanka, and then he's got Don Jr., Eric.
Oh, he's got 5 kids. Eric, Don Jr., Ivanka, Tiffany, and Barron.
Barron's the youngest, I think. Yeah.
Barron, there's a great name. So there you go, Dave. Dave, he knew. they're not condom users.
9 wives. Wow, that's a lot, man. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Wow, why would someone that smart get married so many times? That's bizarre to me.
Yeah, just book smart, no street smarts, right?
Yeah, but like that's so strange because he's not that. How? Next question, Dave. How old is Elon to have had that many? Because he can't be that old. We're learning all about Elon today. I do think he's known about the ET situation for a long time. He's been hinting at it for a long time. He's only 53. He's only
Hmm.
53 with 9 wives. Which, by the way, he went to
Wow.
university for a while in Kingston, Ontario, not too far from where I'm from, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and now they're like trying to get him deported and all this other stuff. It's crazy because I mean it's been a whiplash for Trump supporters, right? Because they Trump supporters, at least here in North Carolina, I mean, if we're gonna get political for a minute, I won't bash either side. I promise. I'll keep it clean. But Trump supporters, at least here in the South, before the Elon bromance, they hated electric cars. I mean, they threw every homophobic slur at anyone driving anything electric. And I mean, that's just being honest. I'm not, that's not controversial to say that. That's just how it is. It's reality. Well, then Elon came along, the bromance came along, and then like Trump supporters had to jump on the Elon Musk wagon. So, and here they've been slamming electric cars for quite some time. And then now, and then they even started defending some of his dealerships, right? Because they were getting the Tesla dealerships were getting overrun and or like people were going in and vandalizing the cars. So some of the Trump supporters are coming in like circling the dealership and protecting Musk, and now it's back to hating him. So I mean, it's kind of a weird whiplash thing going on for Trump supporters. But one thing that brings us all together, it doesn't matter which side you're on. It's like some people are like, hey man, however disclosure comes along, if it's like Elon doing this rogue thing, because I've heard people who do not, there are people well knowns in the community, and I don't have to like, spill the beans on that. They're on X publicly putting their politics out there and their UAPism. And I'm telling you, they could be Trump haters. They could hate Trump with a passion, but if he's going to give them disclosure, they're willing to help any way they can, right? So it just shows you that's the one thing that will bring people together. So, I don't know, maybe it'll take something moving down the road, like if a big announcement's getting ready to come, maybe the only way to stop chaos from breaking loose is to keep that kind of, it's like your ace in the hole, right? I mean, if something bad's getting ready to get announced, let's say he gets a heads up that it is going to get released, that the flight logs to Epstein's Island is getting ready to come out, right? And it shows Trump there for a decade, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Wouldn't he love to be able to play the alien card and just go, you know what? I'm just going to tell the truth about this, and it's just going to outshine everything, So, I think people will jump on any opportunity they can see to get some truth on this. So, it either happens like that, or it just happens with Elon wanting to go rogue and just keep going rogue, just what he's been doing. But I think it will be really telling if nothing comes out of any kind of disclosure with extraterrestrial life when all this is said and done, when people had their opportunity, when Trump and Elon both had their opportunity to spill the beans and to change the narrative because they could have brought disclosure or partial disclosure. Partial disclosure is very simple. All they would have to do is just say, it would go like this. They would say, okay, y'all remember those shoot downs 2 years ago when the Chinese balloon went overhead and, everybody was freaking out, China's spying on us. And then all of a sudden they said they updated their radar systems and we started seeing balloons or high altitude things everywhere or these unknown craft everywhere. Well, what that actually was that was true unknowns, except for the China spy balloon. We shot that down. But the things that we shot down over Canada and over Alaska and everything else, those were true unknowns. We did not tell you exactly what we recovered because we were examining it for the last 2 years. And we did retrieve some things here recently that are not of this world. There you go. That's like partial disclosure. It's not, hey, aliens are here. They're watching you and they may be in your bedroom tonight. May or may not. I hope you sleep tight. Good night. that's going to freak people the hell out. They can do a soft disclosure and just go, hey, we did recover this, we recovered that, we have it in possession, we're trying to find out what it is. We can't tell you what it is yet because we don't know. That's a soft disclosure, because that's just saying, hey, we have something in possession. All of us kind of feel like they already do anyways. And, start trickling it in a little at a time. And that would be soft disclosure. If that doesn't even happen, a soft brand of disclosure, then it's gonna get harder and harder on this disclosure narrative, because everyone's getting their opportunity right now. Trump can, Elon can, and nothing's being said. So we'll have to see.
And what do you think was actually released of relevance of the JFK files, other than, of course, that UFO document that seemed to acknowledge, and that was only a couple weeks before he was killed, it seemed to acknowledge him being aware of some unidentified flying objects?
Yeah, I mean, as it relates to UFOs, I mean, nothing as far as the FBI stuff, because all they're doing, or CIA stuff, is all they're doing is just releasing some of their trade craft. And it's like trade craft that people already knew um, about how they were setting up different things to deal with the Cuban Missile Crisis and things like that, and how that tied in with the JFK situation. Um, but when it comes to UFOs, I mean, like, I was really interested in some of the stuff that got released in past decades, where it related to like J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI, because now it sounds like Gillibrand and others are starting to push this ball down the forward about getting rid of Arrow and replacing it with an FBI UFO unit. That's going to get very interesting, because when those documents got released, and I think they were somewhat tied to JFK, they may have not been completely tied to JFK. I know J. Edgar Hoover was in office around the same time JFK, or at the same time. But even J. Edgar Hoover, they have a memo from him where he says, I won't stand up a UFO unit. I won't even take this on about flying discs and everything unless y'all turn over crash retrievals. Now, I'm paraphrasing, but he mentions in his memo, J. Edgar Hoover does, that, I'll be happy to do a UFO unit in the FBI, but I also want to have some of the stuff that we have in hand turned over to me. And in hand, what he was talking about was we had retrieved some stuff, and I'm pretty sure he was talking about Roswell. So I think that's the biggest thing that interests me out of a lot of those documents that got released, is, what can we do to get away from these stupid Congress appointed or congressional appointed DOD groups like Arrow that are not going to do anything. And they admittedly say they can't do anything. Kozlowski has told people, what's his famous thing? He says, I can't take a shave without asking, or something like. He's pretty much admitted he's castrated. I mean, it's pretty much what he said, is like, I can't do shit, but I'll try, but I'm just telling you, I can't do anything. So who cares about anything with Arrow? Why don't you just appoint a group with the FBI, and they can have some teeth to them, right? Because, like, I feel like things will start moving then, right? I think the rest of us are starting to, like, really push for, like, the game to be bumped up. Let me give you, for instance, why don't we start seeing some of these people in front of Congress or in front of the FBI, like James Lukatsky, Hal Puthoff, Jim Semivan. I mean, these are people. Jim Semivan worked for the CIA, or may still work for the CIA. I don't know. That's been disputed. Hal Puthoff, I know he's not in it anymore, but there's a lot he can't talk about that he wants to, or that he won't talk about in an open session. And then, with these guys like that, and then Lukatsky goes on Weaponized podcast and says that we have a craft and then we've been on it. So what the hell are they waiting on? Like, I mean, there's your proof. Just pull those guys in. And the fact that they don't, that should tell us all something. when someone tells you they have that level of detail about what's going on here, and hell, you hear the way Jim talks, Jim is interacting with the damn phenomenon. So, I mean,
Yeah. The interesting thing he said is anyone that investigates it is going to have some type of interaction where we were talking about it. I think you were also having the dream. So it's like, is this what he's talking about too? Is like, are the dreams not just our imagination going wild? Is that actually considered an interaction too? Because he said whenever, and again, he's had direct, I guess, I don't know. I would only assume like physical trauma experience. Him and his wife have had a really upsetting experience that he never fully talks about. He just lets
yeah,
out little bit more pieces every time he's interviewed by engaging the phenomenon, which he's pretty much the only one that he does. James is the only one that he really does interviews with these days. But yeah, he was saying on there because James had a very good experience with UAP.
hmm
It was almost like a Stephen Greer type experience, but like he was saying, if you spend any amount of time researching this and investigating in it, weird stuff is going to start happening to you, and that made me wonder: is there something more to these dreams or nightmares that I regularly have about the phenomenon?
yeah, absolutely. I've heard of people, and that's where we just don't understand the mind as far as that goes. Now, if it's like a dream state like interaction with a certain phenomenon, that's different because like, you know, it how many times do you have a dream about something that's been on your mind recently and then you have a dream about it? So, you know, you start having very vivid dreams, and some people get up and act their dreams out. Okay. I mean, I had such a vivid dream one time that I thought one of my cats was in the ceiling fan, and I was up in bed with a pillow trying to get my cat to jump onto the pillow so that I could go back to sleep. And it was all a dream, and I was just acting it out. I mean, just think about that. What if that would have been something to do with aliens? And then I come to and I tell you I just had an interaction with an alien. No, I didn't. The brain can be, and now they're kind of linking what I just told you about. They're linking that. I saw an article where they were linking that to potential issues with like, uh, you know, oh, what's the disease that people get in their elder years? Oh man, it's completely left me.
Alzheimer's,
Alzheimer's. Yeah,
Alzheimer's and dementia.
yeah. So I hope that's not a link. But anyways, they were talking about people who act out their dreams, that there could be some kind of linkage there. Anyways, I think that just proves the point though. When you experience something like that, when you experience a dream that vivid where you're actually a part of it physically, you're up out of the bed and you're a part of the dream, both that's scary because you don't. I mean, imagine if you kept a weapon under your pillow. These people that say, "Oh, I sleep with a weapon under my pillow," and it's just like, what if you go into like a vivid dream state, and you grab that
Yeah,
weapon? I mean, that's dangerous. Um, so I just think people don't realize that the brain, and this is not me knocking experiencers, man. I can't. People like me, I can't even talk about this stuff because they go, "Oh, he's just, he's trying to write everything off and everything." No, I'm not. I'm just, I've had some things happen to me where only in dream state, and I knew they were a dream, but I then start hearing some of these people's stories. Like I'm pretty sure his name was John Blitch, the one who was on with Coltart. He's been on with a lot of people, telling his experience, and that is a very common experience. What he's talking about, you know, talking about almost like being locked into his sleep state. Um, 1 second, I'm sorry, I got some background noise. I'll be right back.
no problem. As he's doing that, Vincent's talking about the Mueller investigation. I have not heard of that. I don't know if Casey has.
Which
And
one
I'm
is it?
up the Mueller FBI investigation.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know who Mueller is. And I know they did some things with that, but I don't. Wasn't that a previous FBI head, Mueller? I don't know.
I'm not. Kash Patel is the only one I've really been following. Did you see the part where he was talking about his swatting incident that happened just before his Joe Rogan experience?
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Apparently, he had. I don't know if it was a prank or what, but he had quite an incident at his house the day before
No, but the
the
guy I
event.
was talking about was like, did you see the special with John Blitch?
Not yet.
Okay, yeah, and I think what was really interesting about that was, him talking about, you know, being in like a sleep paralysis, and it was just like the situation that so many of us have had. So one second, I'm sorry, Hannibal. I'll be right back. I'm sorry, I got a distraction
You're
going on.
having a battle royal somewhere in the background. But yeah, Dave, you have some good comments. You're fired up tonight. Dennis Rodman, yeah. I just watched a documentary on him the other day. He actually is friends with Kim Jong or whatever, the North Korean president, which is quite interesting. He's one of the few Americans that could talk with the guy in charge of North Korea. Randomly enough,
Oh, yeah, and sorry, one of my kids. I
yeah,
have 3 kids, so when you're here at
three
the
kids.
house,
You look like you're 25.
I
You're
have
gonna
three
be the next
kids.
Elon Musk.
I have 3 kids, so when I'm sitting here at the house, this is supposed to be my quiet time. And then when one of them randomly wants to walk in here and just like start tearing the kitchen apart, I had to help out for a second. But yeah, but John, when he tells his story on like sleep paralysis and stuff like that, I mean, it just hits home with me, and I hear it, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty familiar when he's explaining it. And then I check the YouTube comments as I'm watching him, and all those same people are telling me they're like, or they're putting their notes in there, and they're saying this sounds like sleep paralysis. I couldn't believe how many people commented on his story and said, dude, this just sounds like sleep paralysis. So, it's your mind can do really vivid things in that state, and I just don't think people fully realize that. So that's one of those things. And again, I'm not trying to write off experiencers. I know Jim Semivan talks about that. I don't know if James does. Maybe that's where
Jim,
they have a connection.
yeah, Jim had actually. He said his wife was like randomly bleeding for like a week after her experience, which is weird. I would have liked to have known more
Yeah.
details on that. He just seems to tease, but he did talk a little bit more about the beings in this latest interview. But
Yeah. Well, and
I'd love to meet Jim Semivan. He's one guy on my interview list that I'm sure I will get. I've got answers from To the Stars yet, or I've got several answers,
yeah.
but I haven't got any confirmed interviews. But one day I would love to interview him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's why I want to see him in front of Congress. I mean, he was CIA. I mean, I don't know how you're going to get much better than someone who was actually on the inside of one of these programs. And wasn't Lakatsky running, the OSAP program? Because I think
Yeah,
Elizondo talks about, having to be called in front of Lakatsky, and Lakatsky asked him, "Hey, what do you know about aliens?" And he's like, "Oh, not much." And then he introduces him to that idea, right? So call in Lakatsky, call in Semivan. And could you imagine if they announced coming up here in a month or two, there was going to be another panel hearing? And last time we had a panel hearing, it was Elizondo, and oh man, there was like 2 other people. There was a guy from NASA, and there's Schellenberger, and maybe Gallaudet. Could you imagine if they said we're going to have Hal Puthoff, Jim Semivan, and James Lukatsky, and we're going to have them in for a congressional hearing? That would be insane. It would be insane,
yeah.
but it would be okay.
Mike,
Now,
was it Mike Gold, the NASA guy? Am I getting the
yeah,
name right? Yeah.
yeah.
Who he was much better on that panel than testifying before Congress. I will say that. He won me back over.
Yeah, and I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, let's get those people who have actually been more on the inside. And then let's start also moving them into the skiff as quickly as possible and not drag ass. Like quit waiting forever to schedule and get a skiff going, and don't do it at the last minute, where people can't change their schedule, because that was the back and forth with Elizondo about missing the skiff, and everybody got pissed at Elizondo. And okay, I can see the point there. You should miss a festival for a
Yeah.
skiff.
He
But,
randomly did an interview with Linda Moulton Howe recently, which I found strange. It's like you're going to come back, and of all people, you're going to do an interview with her.
oh, I
And it
didn't
was
see that.
good. Yeah, I don't know if she was putting up old footage of his, but it seemed like if it seemed like a new interview. So I don't know if he did one with her just because her fans really aren't going to go nuts on him or anything. But yeah, she was talking about types of beings and all kinds of stuff that he's not usually involved in conversations that are, because she's a little bit out there too.
Yeah.
But she was taking the conversation, like kind of talking about it as if he knows about it, but not necessarily like getting him to confirm in his answers that what she was saying was true or not. She was actually kind of clever the way she was presenting the interview.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know much about her stuff other than she was heavy into cattle mutilation. And oh man, I put that kind of there with like the crop circle stuff. And I saw George whenever George Knapp did his most recent Netflix series, Investigation Alien. He started right off the bat with like cattle mutilation, and I'm just like, oh man, here we go again. I mean, it's like, is this the time to move this down, to move the ball down the field? Is it time to step back into crop circles and cattle mutilation? I mean, it's just like, why are we pulling that lever right now unless we have some hardened proof? And we've never even seen any hardened proof. We've seen a jacked up cow on the ground, and that's it. And but people are messed up, man. People are weird. You never know what people do with this. It could have been done by somebody and they just wanted us to flip us out. I don't know. I hate when they get back into that zany stuff. I wish they would stay away from that, even if there's some truth to it. Just like that, now's the time for that. Like if we're trying to get to some state of at least soft disclosure, then let's do it, and not be on this stuff about like the weird stuff. That's why I almost wish they'd stay away from abductions. They'd stay away from angels, demons, and like stuff like that. Because I mean, now you're trying to tie in religion, and then now
Yeah, I saw your comment on that where someone was, and I don't know who it was, but was claiming that now everyone thinks it's about angels and demons. No, I think it's about the same percentage that I've always thought that.
oh yeah, you're talking about Green Street.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I guess this was from 8 months ago. She may have just put out a new clip or something the other night, but that interview with Lou and Linda was eight
Okay.
months ago. But
Oh wow.
interesting to see him be exposed to kind of some of these more theories like that, and even further out there than that, where she's
Yeah.
referencing whistleblowers without any names or anything that are allegedly speaking to her. But sorry for cutting you off there. Just found out when that interview was.
Oh yeah, no, and yeah, you're talking about Stephen Greenstreet. He had posted, yeah, about the UFO movement over the last 7 years is now angels and demons instead of aliens. I don't know where he's getting that from. I mean, I've only heard one demon person make a statement, and that was Elizondo, and he said it in like one interview. He's not really put that into the echo chamber yet. He said it in one. He said, I think people need to start dealing with the fact that it could be something demonic, and he said that like one off like that, but I've not heard him personally keep going back to that.
Bird Shit has talked a little bit about that he thinks some of the stuff could be
Mhm.
somewhat demonic, but it's not like there's a large. I don't even think like 2%.
Yeah, I don't know where Green Street's getting that from. Is like, it's not angels and demons. I don't even hear anybody talking about that. I mean, I know that
How do
Bledsoe.
you associate a UFO with? I still don't get it. I still don't
Mhm.
get how you associate a UFO with a demon. It's a machine. Is it not? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think we've had this thing pop up recently with Bledsoe. Maybe Bledsoe trickles into it some because he tries to bring in the spiritual side of ufology. Yeah, I see somebody just said it. But, that is again, he's got a very small faction. I mean, Bledsoe is not like, even though he's a well-known name, that doesn't mean everyone believes him and everyone, you know, um, so I think and I even heard this week, James Fox say while he was at Contact in the Desert, James Fox apparently was out because Bledsoe did his thing out there. And I guess they had an orb sighting or something. And now even James said in the video, he's very, very skeptical, of that stuff that goes on with Bledsoe. And well, he's seeing an orb come over. Now, James Fox claims that the orb changes direction. And because James was sitting there thinking, okay, this is a satellite. They're looking at a satellite. And then James said it changed direction and went the other way, which a satellite doesn't do. So I don't know. I mean, who knows what they're seeing? They filmed one of them and it was really up high in the sky and it's coming at them and then it changes direction and goes to the right. Here's my thing. My problem is that Bledsoe has a lot of CIA buddies and he admits it. And Semivan's one of them, right? Jim Semivan is one of them and they're open about that. And Jim is open about that. And, and he's got all these buddies with CIA. And for those of us that pay any attention at all to anything the CIA does, they get involved in some weird disinfo stuff, man. They really do. And who knows, maybe they're playing off Bledsoe. And again, I have made this claim here that maybe Bledsoe has no clue what they're doing. But they do it and they use Bledsoe as kind of like a useful subject. Sorry, I'm kicking my mic here. But they use Bledsoe as like an easy lightning rod for it. So let's say, for example, where Chris is and where he's filming that stuff, he is right near. People don't realize this and they've not made this connection. But Chris is right near Pope Airfield here in North Carolina. I'm here in North Carolina too, so I know this area well. Pope Airfield, anybody remember that? That's where Jake Barber was. And there's some alleged weird shit that goes down over Pope Airfield. So, we could get into all the stories about that. Who's to say that CIA is not flying some drones out there? And Chris don't know. I mean, they're just hanging a massively bright light off of it. It doesn't have to have, because it's CIA. It doesn't have to have any kind of FAA lighting on it or anything like that. It's just a bright light they have off of it, and they keep it up high enough in altitude, far enough away, where all you get to see is the bright light on it. If it's got a small drone body on it, but a very bright light, you're not going to see anything else other than that bright light. So how do you not know they're not flying over there and messing with Chris? When someone says, well, he went out to Contact in the Desert and he saw orbs out there. Well, guess what is all around that desert out there? They have bases everywhere out there, everywhere. So it's like,
Not to mention, there's going to be pranksters, just like with the New Jersey stuff, that they're going to know there's the biggest
I didn't even think about that
thing in the world. If I was a prankster with
go.
money, that's the first thing I'd do. Let's mess with these people.
Absolutely. That's the first thing you do, right? Hey, Bledsoe's going to be over there. He's going to be doing a show out in Contact in the Desert. Don't you have one of those DJIs? I think is what they're called, the really good drones. Don't you have one that can go like such and such 1,000 feet? Let's go mess with him. Yeah. And see, that's my problem. That's a problem that I have believing it. If you want to believe, let's believe him. You know, I mean, that's you. That's a you thing. This is a me thing. Like, I have to rule some things out first. And, but we went down that rabbit hole. But I think a lot of the spiritual thing came from, yeah, it probably started moving in from Bledsoe. And then, um, we hear Jake saying stuff like he had this spiritual feeling when he
Yeah. And
encountered
we
him.
appreciate you, Vincent. And if you know Satan personally, please keep him out of my life. That's all I can ask.
And yeah, so but that's just the thing, is that if we're dealing with a spiritual side of that, we have a long way to go on that conversation. And if that's where we're going to go with it, then we might as well just push disclosure back another 15, 20 years. And according to Bledsoe, we don't have that, because according to Bledsoe, Jesus is coming back next year. We only have a few months left. And remember, that's one of the prophecies that we're watching, right? Because we're watching to see if he starts changing that. Does the lady in white come to Chris and change the prophecy? I jokingly said this week in one of the X posts, maybe the lady in white forgot to carry the one and it was 2027, because, we've had all the people speculating about 2027. Something big is happening. Ross is talking about it, and Corbell's talking about it. And,
Lou hinted somewhere around that time too, and then he kind of took it back. And then even Nick Pope and Leslie Keane, or Leslie Kane, I don't know how to say her last name, but they've both talked about it too.
Yeah, and I mean, are they just stuck in the UFO echo chamber though, or are they really hearing something, some net new information? Is someone coming to them and saying, "Hey, something, I've been your contact for 20 years." Let's say if it is Leslie King, she's been around the UFO world since back at the 2000 press club event, that the one that Greer was at. So she's been in the field a long time. If somebody's came to her and said, "Look, I've been a solid source for you for 25 years and you've relied on my information. I've never failed you. And I have this information about 2027." Okay. I kind of understand where she would be going with that, but I'm not aware of that. I think what she and Nick Pope and Ross and all the rest of them are doing, they get caught up in the UFO echo chamber and they start just repeating the same stuff that they're hearing. Pick a year. They could have said 2028, 2029. I'm pretty sure they would have probably all just echoed it. But I don't know. I just think that with the spiritual side of things, with ufology, the only other thing that I'm aware of, and we brought it up here on your channel, is Jacques Vallée telling Diana Pasulka, when Diana Pasulka went to go meet him at his place in San Francisco, I believe is where Jacques Vallée was. And she asked him what was the most interesting book that she needed to read that is closely tied to this phenomena that would tell her what's going on. And he handed her the book, and it was called, like, the name of the book literally was Satan, or the History of Satan, or something like that. And she thought that was really interesting. So little things like that trickle in, and people hear that and they're like, okay, Jacques Vallée saying Satan's tied into this somehow. And Chris Bledsoe saying that Jesus is coming back next year and there's angelic beings that can come visit you and heal you. And then Elizondo says on one thing that, demons may be tied to this. I don't know. Maybe there's demonic aliens. Maybe there's just some of the. Have you ever seen the movie with Julianne Moore? Is that her name? She's redheaded. Julianne Moore, I think, is her name. And The Forgotten, I think, is the name of it. It's where, like, the kids get taken on a plane and they disappear, and the aliens try to clear their mind and try to, like, wipe their memory. Have you ever seen that movie? I think it's called Forgotten, or The Forgotten.
I have not seen it, but you are correct. I just looked it up.
So anybody that hasn't watched that, watch it, because at the end is freaky, but it has to do with aliens. And
interesting.
It has to do with aliens, yeah. And the weird thing about it is the aliens are kind of messed up. They're not nice aliens, and
Hmm.
they're demonic looking. And I only bring that up because, yeah, that was a movie, it was fake and it's all fiction. I get that. But what's interesting about that is, that idea. Because a lot of people just think of aliens as being either these stoic creatures or these creatures that just kind of want to come in and run some experiments and leave. But I think when people started thinking about what Elizondo said, they were wondering, maybe there's some that are pretty sinister, and that's why they don't tell us, is because some of them are and then why would they be hiding from us? If they're sinister, then what are they afraid of, kind of thing. So I don't know. That's why I try to stay away from the religion stuff when it comes to UFOs and aliens, unless something really comes out interesting. And the only thing that's interested me with religion and the UFO topic is the one that you and I have shared here several times, where Pasaka went to the Vatican City with that Tim Taylor guy. That's really interesting because I would love to know what's in the Vatican archives on UFOs.
Yes, that would be very interesting. There's also the people that say that Jesus was really an alien, and there's been some documentaries of people
Mm-hmm.
saying that, given that the powers and stuff, they equate it with that. But I've never really researched that too much. But that's another one of the theories that's out there.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, and then you get this weird stuff like we were talking about, like that Matthew Brown release this week. And again, for those who haven't watched Matthew Brown, he's the most recent whistleblower that's been on the Weaponized podcast. Um, Now, again, I don't know if this is Matthew Brown. There's someone under that name that's posting to X and made his first post, and he made a very lengthy post to Elon, pretty much saying like, "Hey, Elon, you want to go rogue? Why don't you go rogue in a good way?" So he's pretty much trying to talk Elon into what we were talking about at the beginning of this show. What if Elon? Okay, he brought up the Epstein files. Now, what if he doubles down with UFOs and aliens? Well, that's what Matthew Brown, if this is confirmed Matthew Brown on X, it's very specific stuff on here. Because Ross Coulthart said that he was told that Elon was briefed on the reality of NHI. And then he says on here, remember when you were briefed by the special executive staff of Donald Trump on something called marsupial, and he puts it in bold. And he says, pretty nifty how NGA, GONT, whoever that is able to keep track of all these non-structured light energy craft flying around the world. He says, but they were lying to you when they said they didn't know how they work. So Matthew Brown in this post is bringing up some like very specific conversations and some very specific programs and some very specific people. So, I mean, I was kind of a Matthew Brown skeptic. Let me explain just real quick. The only reason why I'm a Matthew Brown skeptic, I have a hard time believing that people go rogue on I would say the most powerful enterprise in the world, which is the United States Department of Defense, the Pentagon. Like, I don't know. I don't know who would want to go against them, even our own elected officials and everything, right? I just don't. There's a lot of legacy people there. There's people, lifers, who have always been there, and they transcend politics, right? I mean, people come and go from the White House. It's a temporary position. I mean, Donald Trump is in a temp job, when you think about it, he's a temporary worker. But some of these people live and work and breathe that environment for decades. So I think the Department of Defense is the biggest, baddest group out there. And I'm talking about all the people that are built into that apparatus too. Anything to do with CIA and all that closely ties in together, right? I know they're at a different place than Pentagon CIA is, but still all that with Langley and them tying together. I have a hard time believing people just go rogue from that. I don't know about you, Hannibal. Maybe you're braver than me, but if I knew these people could kill me at any moment, they can kill me, then, and don't even worry about the kill part of it. They can cut my pension. They can cut my benefits. I can lose my job. I can lose my way of life. And I'm just going to do that to go on a podcast with Jeremy Corbell for an hour. And then, there's just,
Yeah, I mean, that's not even that big of a platform, to be honest. It's not like it's Joe Rogan.
yeah, I just don't. What's he going to do? Make any money? It does not balance. If I put in the scale over here, I could die. They could kill me because I'm going against my oaths. I took an oath when I took that job to not betray the country's trust and tell the country's secrets, or at least as they see them, the secrets as they see them. And I'm going to do it anyways, but they could kill me. They could take my benefits. They could take my pension. They could take my job, my way of life. And you see how the scale starts working down here. And then over here, or I can get famous for 15 minutes on Jeremy Corbell's show. I mean, it does not scale out. So I have a hard time believing. So people say, so why did he do it? There's the question. Either one or two things is going on in my estimation. He is not who he says he is, and the Department of Defense could give two shits what he says. They don't care because he's just some guy.
Who's he working for now? Someone's asking. We have someone from Wyoming.
That's a good question. I don't know if he does or not. I doubt it. I mean, this is my problem. I'll try to find that out. That's a good question. I've been wondering that too. I don't think he does, but I'd have to go back and look and see. I just, how do you come out as a whistleblower and just go crazy on X like he just did here, and still and go back in Monday morning and walk around, hey, what's up, everybody? I'm the guy that's just throwing grenades. Just, man, something is off with that. So here's the thing. Again, here's the one or two things. He's not who he says he is, meaning his stature. Hell, he could have been over there just filling up the printers, and he got around some people and heard some shit and thought, I can make a name for myself. And the Department of Defense is like, if this guy wants to spew some bullshit, let him. Who cares? We don't know who he is. That could be going on. Or he is exactly who he says he is, and this is ordained and blessed and condoned by the Department of Defense. And then you have to ask yourself why that's going on. Like, why would they let him come say this? Why does what is the acronym for that? There's an acronym, DOPSR. It's like a pre. They have to get
he's taking it through DOPSR, and they're just not saying.
They don't mind if he says so. If he takes it through DOPSR, which is a pre-approval process that people with the Department of Defense have to go through before they can say shit. Lukatsky had to do it before he released his books. Lou Elizondo had to go through it before he released his books. Anytime you're writing this stuff, you have to submit it to DOPSR. DOPSR is the acronym, and I can't remember what all it stands for. All I know is it just stands for something where they have to get approval before they can say what they say. But if these people are being allowed to say what they say, which they are, and even Lewis said that. Lewis said he was surprised at certain things that he was allowed to say, and it was either him or Lukatsky. One of those two, I've heard them openly say they were surprised that DOD cut certain things out, but allowed them to keep certain things in, because they were like, well, you're not letting me say this, but you let me say this over here, which is way more inflammatory. So why does the Department of Defense allow them to say these things? Why are they, if they are allowing Matthew Brown to say this stuff, why is it? So it's either, then the next rabbit hole from there is, if the government is letting Matthew Brown say this stuff, then either one or two things is going on. This is a useful cover for secret government programs. We developed some pretty cool shit, and we don't want China or Russia or anyone else to find out about it. And we use UFOs and aliens as an excellent cover. And if that is if that's the truth, they're doing a damn good job at it. Because look at us. Look how, we're interested. We buy the shit. They've run a pretty good program of throwing us off the scent of, again, if Tic Tac, like Representative Burleson said, if the Tic Tac UFO is Lockheed Martin, he said that someone told him that they have seen the Tic Tac iteration 1, 2, and 3 and they're going to show Representative Burleson the Tic Tac iterations and that it's Lockheed. Okay, if that's the case, then the Department of Defense, CIA, all these people, they're using UFO and aliens as a useful idiot. Like, it is a good cover because it's got a big fandom. It's got a lot of people that watch it and pay attention to it, and they can use people like what came out. Did you see the Bass report that got floated around on X this week? That
I've heard about it, but I have not seen it. No.
I think that was what was linked to what was going on with oh shit, I just forgot the guy's name. The guy out that was running AllSap from a private engineering. Somebody in the comments can probably say, shit, it just like, oh, Bigelow. So you remember when Bigelow was doing that and they were doing the report? Well, apparently in some of the Bass documents,
Bigelow Aerospace, I guess.
some of the report that got released, that got leaked apparently. And in it, there's some call out that they were going to be doing this stuff. They were going to be running media campaigning and stuff like this, and grooming people. So there's been some people attacking Jeremy Corbell.
Oh, the report of how they're going to disclose.
Well, or just set up this narrative. You know, it may not be that it's disclosure, but it may just be setting up.
And like this is specifically on the Tic Tac, I guess. Tic Tac leaked BASS report.
No, it's the BAAS. So I think it's
BAA.
Okay. Yeah, BAAS report leak. If you look that up, there's some very specific documentation in there where they're talking about it, and it is really interesting. And again, it kind of leads into this: is this all being released as a useful cover, for what's going on? And that's where I think this gets really interesting. Is like, if they're doing this and they're allowing it and they're blessing Matthew Brown to come out and say what he's saying, and Lou Elizondo and James Lukatsky and all these people that want to say wild stuff, and they're allowing it, we have to think of the possibility that this is our tech and we don't want people to find out about it, and we use UFOs and aliens as a good cover. I'm sorry, but it's a possibility. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like that idea and they think like something could be wrong with that, but it's, but yeah, one of the people that talk about it, Hannibal, in that Bass report, I got an excerpt right here. It said, ask why Lou Elizondo would visit Jeremy Corbell's personal home multiple times over many, many weekends in order to train Jeremy. Train him for what exactly? If this is going to be refuted by Jeremy, then I will leak images of when Jeremy secretly took pictures of Lou being at his house for days on end. This is very concerning. So I don't know, maybe they were buddies and they were just hanging out, but apparently,
well, Jeremy loves to brag about that, how good buddies they are.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I make as much about that, but okay, so you leaked pictures and showed that Lou Elizondo was at Jeremy's place for a long, long time. I mean, okay. I mean, maybe they had a 2-week deal where they were like, hey, man, let's go on a long fishing trip for a couple weeks.
Maybe he had a fight with his wife.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's wild. And then they bring up the thing, too, about Jay Stratton not letting people set up not letting engineers set up tests or laboratories or something. So I don't know. It gets kind of deep, but at the same time, it makes you kind of wonder if when you start hearing some of this stuff, let me just tell you the dots that I start connecting on it it feels like something's going on there where a narrative was being built as a distraction for maybe some tech. And I mean, this is something that Jesse Michaels talks about all the time with T. Townsend Brown, and that if they figured out anti-gravity.
Jesse was on Joe Rogan too, by the way, for anyone that didn't know that, just a couple days ago, which I was shocked by. There were some good clips in there.
Yeah, some really good clips, and he goes through the whole T. Townsend Brown thing, breaks it down for Rogan again. And I mean, if they figured out anti-gravity and they've kept it a secret and they don't want people to know about it, and it kind of coincided with them running some tests, You can imagine if they're testing some anti-gravity stuff and it crashed out in the desert, because we were testing everything in New Mexico back then. So when something crashes in New Mexico, you should kind of put two and two together. Like maybe we were testing something out there and we crashed it, and it was an anti-gravity test. And yeah, it kind of did look disc shaped, I mean, and we crashed, and we did not want people to know that we were out there testing that. Well, what about the bodies? Yeah, well, we had pilots aboard, and they hit the ground going 700 miles an hour. Have you ever seen what a body does to a person when it hits the ground at 700 miles an hour? Well, they were small and deformed. Yeah, they just hit the ground at 700 friggin' miles an hour. So, I mean, there could be something going on there where, again, DOD is allowing some of these things to be said because there's some really advanced stuff going on in our military budget. Again, who was it? Donald Rumsfeld, who said, 20 some years ago, that there's $2 trillion in the DOD budget that we can't account for. Where do you think some of that stuff's going to?
$2 trillion every year?
I don't think he said every year, but there's a very famous Donald Rumsfeld press conference, and it's somewhere around, I want to say 2000. I can't remember the year. I want to say 2002, 2003. It's somewhere early 2000s. And he says there's some $2 trillion in the defense budget that can't be accounted for. And he admits it. A trillion with a T. So, that's concerning. And every UFO person puts that in their documentary, by the way. I've seen Greer put that in about every documentary, because that's a damning quote, because it shows that they got to be doing some stuff, right? They are really building some pretty amazing things, and we probably only know about a third of it. So that's the only reason I just caution people is like, look, if DOD is allowing these things to be said, you have to ask why. And then one option is what we've just been talking about, that they're trying to keep it as a cover. And then the other option is aliens are real, and they're allowing it to be said because they're trying to do a slow trickle. And Tom DeLonge was right when he went on Rogan 7 years ago and said, hey, the DOD came to me because I can help them with communication, because I'm a pop culture person, and I can help them put documentaries and books and TV series out and start trickling out the message, because they want to come out. They want to let the cat out of the bag, but they have to do it in a controlled way. Okay, so that's an option too. I'm not saying aliens are not an option here. They are. But you have to consider the other option too, of why the Department of Defense is allowing things to be said and done.
Very true, because they wouldn't let things go this far without cutting people off if they really didn't want it out. There's a lot of people talking fairly freely out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and again, I just have an extremely hard time believing that, right? I mean, again, would you go rogue? I'm just curious to your opinion. Would you go rogue on the Department of Defense?
No, and especially not for, and this is nothing against, I know I don't particularly like Corbett Bell, but I wouldn't do it on his show. I would do it if I'm going to on a big one, and then I would disappear somewhere after. But it's not like his information was that game changing either, and he doesn't really have much backup to it either.
That is an excellent point, because what he brought out in that 3-part series on weaponized was just the Immaculate Constellation report. And he just kind of talked through it, and they keep defending the fact that he could have just read something that was a drill or a test or some type of like training or a training op or something like that. And if you have to keep defending that, that should tell you something. If you have to keep defending the fact that what he could have seen was a training op documentation, and he came across it and was like, oh man, look what I've just uncovered. And the people in the Department of Defense is like, dude, that's a training op, and no. And, if he's this big UFO guy, and he was already a big UFO guy, and then he comes across something like that, and now it's just triggered his creative mind to put together the rest. I mean, that's yeah. And when he goes on Jeremy and George's show, I mean, nothing against the guy. It's just I didn't step away from that stuff. I actually think his X post here is way more interesting than just his little snippet here in X is way more interesting than his time with Jeremy and George, because if you read his X post, he is actually saying specific things. He's saying, hey, what about when these people told you this and they were lying when they told you that? Like, he's bringing up specific scenarios, and he didn't say any of that.
He didn't even get 1 million hits, by the way. I'm looking at it. Part one got about 700,000. Part two got about 400,000. So it's not like you're even go on News Nation to Ross Coldhart at least, and you'll reach a bigger audience.
Didn't he say he had more to say but wanted to keep it as a backup? Yeah, I mean, they all say that though. True 79, they all say that. I mean, Grush says that. Honestly, I haven't heard anyone come forward that say that, and I'm going all the way back to Hal Puthoff, some of the original people who are on the inside. They all say, look, I got more I want to say, but I won't tell you, kind of thing. I mean, go watch the program. The program is free on Amazon Prime. I finally got to watch it. Go watch the program.
Is that Jamie Foxx's?
James Fox.
James Fox, yeah.
And that's the one with Jason Sands. And he sits down and
I saw that. That was his best one, other than the Jason Sands part. That was the best James Fox documentary.
But he sits down with Hal, right? Again, he sits down with Hal Puthoff in that one, and he asks Hal, can you say more? And he goes, no, I kind of have some that I can't say. They all keep something reserved, but if you go and look at if people do have an X account, if you just go look him up, he's going under the at son. It says at son of Abramelin. I don't know what that means, but when you click on his thing here, it says Matthew. So I don't know. You may just have to go to like Ross's page or something. But anyways, if you go through the specific claims he makes in there, it gets crazy. And he says some stuff like, he says, don't worry, we have not forgotten who is responsible for murdering the first sentient artificial intelligences created in the public realm. What the hell? So, I mean, like, what is this guy talking about? So, I mean, he says some much more crazier stuff, but that does tell you something there, Hannibal. If there was a 700,000 viewing in episode 1 and episode 2, it dropped in half. I mean, there's just not a lot going on with this guy. He sounds like a UFO fanatic. He sounds like one of us. And he got on the inside.
Admitted it. He admitted that he wanted to get into this because he was.
And he's into it. And he came across some shit. And his boss told him there, hey, unsee this stuff. Just get rid of it, delete it, unsee it. And he chose to go out with it. And I'm just sorry, man, that I have a hard time believing this dude has a set that big where he would just go, you know what, screw the Department of Defense. I'll take them on myself. Dude, what the fuck ever. I don't believe that. That's hard to believe.
Yeah. to reach that million people, not even 1 million people, because I'm sure the return viewers are people that wanted to know the rest.
Yeah, if he had some big payday, now if some media person was saying, hey, we will pay you X amount of dollars for your story, and this will be more than you'll make with the Department of Defense over the next 20 years. Okay. I can understand that, but I don't think Corbell is paying that kind of money. No. I don't know.
Yeah. But I don't even think that many YouTube hits would pay for his travel to even get there. But the other thing is, they spent, and again, if I was going to get in trouble for something, I would want to downplay it. They spent like the first quarter of the first episode building up how much danger he was putting himself in. I'd be like, oh no, this is nothing. I'm not really going against it. There's a little hole, but like he's allowing them to like build up how dangerous it is. So why is he still out there?
Look, for somebody who has dealt with anxiety in their life, as many of us do, whether you want to admit it or not, you deal with stress or anxiety on a certain level, you need sleep. You need peaceful sleep. We deal with bills, we deal with mortgages, children, families, and our jobs. And to take on the most powerful enterprise in this world and go against them and just go gangbusters, I'm sorry, you just can't convince me of that. You cannot convince me that there's some badass out there that's badass enough to take on the Department of Defense and just go, screw you. I don't need a pension. I don't need a job. I don't need protect. I mean, I just don't buy it, man. I mean, if that makes people mad,
And
it makes
that guy
people
doesn't
mad.
look like the type that would last too long in prison.
No, I mean, and I'm sorry, it's just keeping it real, being a human being, man. I mean, I've been one for over 40 years now, and from my experience of being a human has taught me is that you're not going to go that level unless you have something to really balance those scales back out, right? Big payouts, protection, something like that, And I know people, I told somebody this story last week and they said, well, what about Bob Lazar then? Are you saying the same thing? And I said, well, no, wait a second. Bob Lazar was already not working for them out at S4 anymore. Like, what I'm saying? He was already, they had already cut him loose because I think he was having issues at home and his wife was cheating on him, is what Bob Lazar says. So this wasn't like he was already not working for the government anymore. And he was already feeling like he was being watched. And his story is he came out, and the reason why he came out with his story was for protection. Like he wanted to come out and be like, okay, if I put out the biggest story in mankind and somebody kills me next week, they're going to know it was true. Everyone in the world's going to know it was true because why kill me? So he came out for protection. So I actually understand Bob Lazar's way more than Matthew Brown's. Matthew Brown's, I don't understand because I don't know why you would want to go live and go gangbusters like this. And again, I guess you could kind of say the same thing of Lou and the same thing of Lakatsky and all these people. Why go write up all this stuff and say it and completely lose out on everything unless there's some one or two things. The DOD is blessing it for one or two reasons, because it's to keep the UFO narrative alive to cover their programs, or it's to continue the trickle disclosure.
Well, very good information. I appreciate it. You definitely have had some good points there. Do I think he was manipulated by Jeremy and Knapp? He was convinced, but who knows? I don't
I
think
don't
that
know.
guy's a fairly smart guy.
Yeah, and I think they claim that they try to talk him out of it, right? I know you've watched it too, Hannibal. I think they claim that they actually
Yeah.
tried to talk Matthew Brown out of it or tell him not to do it or something. And
Who knows? Honestly, they spent way too. My biggest, they would probably have over 1 million hits if they hadn't spent so much time dragging out getting to the meat of the
oh
of the
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Because again, it was
people got
you
tired
could,
of waiting. I did. I
yeah.
got tired of waiting. So
And you know what? If that was said, I may have tuned out by that point because sometimes I'm doing other work while I'm watching these things, and then my mind will just tune out until I hear something good again, and then I'll tune
I'm
back
pretty
in.
sure they alluded to something about saying, "Hey, we tried to talk you out of it, tell you let's just wait, maybe don't do this, that kind of thing." So I don't know. I mean, I don't see George doing that, but I could see Jeremy doing some stuff to really try to get the message out, because I do think Jeremy in some level is about Jeremy, right? And I think any of us watching get that feeling from Jeremy. That's not me. That's not me having any issue with Jeremy, other than I just pick up that feeling that Jeremy's very about Jeremy. So, you know,
And George is very accomplished. He doesn't need this
yeah, I don't think
on
George
his
would do that.
resume. Actually, I was looking at some pictures of both of them from Contact in the Desert, which, by the way, I will be doing an interview soon with Captain Ron, the guy that runs it, letting
Cool.
us know how that whole convention went. But George just looks so much cooler. He may have had a bourbon, but I saw him at the bar. He's just all relaxed, looking all cool. And then you see nerdy little Jeremy
Hopping
in his
about.
picture. Yeah, just all excited, and George is like, this is my
Yeah.
element. I'm the king of this.
You know,
But
Nap is getting up there too, man. He's
yeah,
probably not going to be as sprite as he once was back in the day. You know, I could see Jeremy definitely working the room, and George just kind of sitting back having his beer watching.
yeah. And I'm sorry, Jeremy, but you're never gonna be as legendary as George. I hate to break the news to you.
Yeah, no,
But
and I mean,
but you do good work. You do good work. You just rub me the wrong way in some ways, but I still like you.
and see, but your sentiment is, I don't think that's ill-fitted because there's a lot of us that feel that way. So I don't think you should feel bad about that sentiment. I think all of us kind of, you know, we don't watch all the Jeremy stuff. There's a few things he's done that's interesting. There's a few things where it's like, I don't know about that. But, you know, you could just tell like he's trying real hard sometimes, you know, and I mean, and he admits it. I mean, he says he slept at John Lear's house for I don't know how long to try to get in on this subject. And then he tried to make his ends with George Knapp for a very long time. And he admits all this. He says he admitted he annoyed George Knapp for a very long time until
Until
George,
he could pay him enough to collaborate.
he wanted to get to Bob Lazar, and he knew George was the way, and he had to bug George for a very long time until George paid attention to him. So, you know, and then that's when he released his big thing, right? The Lazar story thing, you know, and that was
Yeah.
a decent documentary. I liked it. I watched it. I thought it was kind of cool, and how they build up to the FBI raid at the end where apparently the FBI was listening to him, that kind of thing. So there was some suspense in it, but you know, everything after that, I mean, like I've watched some of the weaponized, some of them, you know, I don't really get into because they're talking to just like people I don't even know who they are, like actors and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I think I think people are kind of starting to stray away from some of these people that have been in the echo chamber for the last 2 or 3 years, and they're trying to get some new content from other places. So,
And I definitely think what really is going to hurt Jeremy if it doesn't happen, and it's already hurt him, was that big 2B documentary that TMZ put out, where he was claiming the operation of the fake alien invasion with the mothership on its way. He's claiming that's the 2027 thing. So I'm sure if that doesn't happen, which it's not looking like it's going to, that's going to hurt his credibility.
I can tell you right now that 2026, as it approaches, Chris Bledsoe is going to be sweating bullets. Okay. And we'll get into this one time on our show if we want to do a religious one and how it ties into this stuff. I was in my youth, I was part of a religious cult. Luckily, I'm not tied to anything religious no more, but I was part of a religious cult when I was much, much younger against my will, right? And I can tell you right now, there are a lot of similarities between a religious cult and some of the stuff I'm hearing from Bledsoe. And let me tell you, people in a religious cult, they make lots of failed prophecies where they're told something's going to happen on this date. And when that date comes and goes, they are scrambling and they're trying to find the new answer and the reason why it didn't happen. Or, oh, well, y'all didn't pray hard enough, so that's why this event didn't happen. They come up with something. These people are pretty good at finding a way to explain the reason why their prophecy didn't happen. I'm telling you, it's not going to happen. Ain't shit going to happen next year. As far as, you know, the world ending or Jesus coming back, and it's going to, you know, I just don't understand why these people expose themselves that way. I mean, why put a date out there? Why do that? And I mean, now it's going to, like, all this stuff, like Bledsoe's going to kill his credibility. Like, at least he's got something good going right now where people watch his orbs and they think he's experiencing something, and he's got a good thing going for him, and he gets invited to all the conferences and the events and things. Why mess with that? Because what's going to happen next year is shit ain't going to happen. And now people are going to want to know why, and they're going to call him a false prophet. So, you know, same thing with Coulthard, you know, and he's already done it a couple times, and Greer has done it, and look at the damage it's done at Greer, at people that don't like Greer, and he's constantly putting dates and stuff out there. So Bassett's another. I think you've talked to Hannibal. He gets a lot of heat.
Yeah. He gets easily excited about stuff, I find. He might have good intentions, though, because I don't think he
I
is
have the
making money
videos.
on it like a lot of other people are.
I have the videos of him saying, like, this fall we're going to have, and he's on Richard Dolan's show saying it, and he tells Richard, and Richard disagrees with him. Credit Richard. Richard's like, oh, I don't think I'm as like optimistic
And
as you are.
somebody please get that guy another sweater.
Richard Dolan?
No, Bassett, because he always wears the exact
the
same.
black.
I'm just having fun with him. I like him, but
I
you're
like him
right.
too. But I'm sorry, just calling a spade a spade. He makes prophecies, and he goes, yeah, we will be into a post-disclosure world this fall, and then he moves it back to January, and then he moves it back to spring, and he's moved it so many times. You're like, dude, just quit it. Just stop. You're not good at the date thing. And whoever you think your contacts are, they don't know shit. They don't know shit, because you have already said for the past 2 or 3 years on Dolan's show, I've seen him on other stuff with New Paradigm stuff where he goes, we will be here, and it never happens. And it's like, dude, quit saying dates, because how many times do you see Bassett on things anymore? He's never on things anymore. Does he even? I mean, people have got tired of it. They're like, dude, you've spoiled 6 prophecies, man. I mean, we can't give you any more. Like, you used them all up, you know?
Yeah, his big advantage is he's in Washington, so he's able to show his face at a lot of these press conferences.
Yep.
Stuff. But anyways, I guess we gone about 20 minutes over time, but it was very interesting talking to you. Thank you, everyone, for sticking it out. And we'll be back next week unless something comes up catastrophic. I'll let you close this one off, Casey. Thanks again, and have a great weekend. Enjoy your bourbon.
Yeah. Hopefully,
He did post a video last week, right? This week, was it? Earlier this week?
We did our first bourbon death match here on the show, where we take we'll just call it legacy. We'll take a bourbon that is probably in everyone's shelf and try to take it down with a newcomer. And it was kind of cool. We had some people on. I had some technical difficulties with it. I'm dealing with an older laptop at the time. I got a new one this week, and it was glitching on me. So the last 2 podcasts, I apologize, I've had glitches. You remember the last one we did last week? I had the light bulb situation. This week I have one of my kids come down.
Yes, it's always something. It's the aliens.
Always something.
They're causing it.
The last 2 podcasts, I'm dealing with so many distractions inside. Their lights going out in the house, or kids coming down. So, but anyways, I appreciate the time. And we got another cool one coming up here in a couple weeks too, that we're trying to schedule with the disclosure team. So watch out for that. We've just posted the live and scheduled it. It'll be with Carolina Garcia, and perhaps maybe even Vinny Adams will be on, but at least 1 or 2 of them will be on with us here in a couple weeks, and that got scheduled. So go in and save that one to your schedule as well for those paying attention. So thanks, everybody.